from Henkel. So, hola, my SHPE familia. My name is Ashley, and I'm a project manager for the research and innovation team at SHPE. I will be your moderator today, but before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping items. I will share a recording of this session with all registrants, and you'll find a link on our MentorSHPE website. You'll be able to start the panel today with prepared questions so you get to know our wonderful panelists, and then a little bit more about their experiences as they relate to mentoring. And then we're going to end with a Q&A session. And then also our panelists are excited to connect with you via LinkedIn. So don't be shy, do connect and expand that network. So when I do share the recording with you guys here in the next 48 hours, I will also share links to their LinkedIn as well. Now let's go ahead and get started with the fun part. So I want to say a big thanks to our partners at Henkel for sponsoring this panel on the foundations of successful mentorship. So a little bit about Henkel, and I will say I learned all of this through this partnership and some really cool things. So in North America, Henkel operates across 3 business units. So adhesives, beauty care, laundry, and home care. So we have some people from adhesives today and beauty care as well. Its portfolio of brands includes Dial, Persil, Purex, and all laundry detergents, Snuggle fabric softeners, as well as Loctite, Technomelt, Bondurite, and adhesives. And Henkel employs over 8,000 people across the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico. And importantly, Henkel is here today because they're committed to ensuring that everyone, regardless of background, has an equal chance to succeed. Through partnership with organizations like SHPE, Henkel is helping to increase access to quality education and job opportunities among historically marginalized communities. Carolina is here joining us today. She's the president of the ERG Unidos, and she just wants to give you guys a little bit of information and overview about Unidos, and then we'll get started with our panelists here. Thank you so much for joining us today, Carolina.
Thank you, Ashley. Well, good morning, good afternoon. Well, as I mentioned, thank you for the introduction. So my name is Carolina, and I have not only the pleasure to be here with you to help introduce Henkel and Unidos as well, and I think also have the honor to be part of Unidos. Unidos is one of Henkel's ERG, which is employee resource groups. We are fairly new, and we are a dedicated Hispanic, Latino employee resource group in the company. We are barely a year old, almost a year old, but also that is a testament of how committed the company is and how committed we are as a group. So the members that are in the panel today that you're going to meet shortly, they are all part of Unidos. So we are grateful to be here. And just to give you a brief overview, Unidos really, and I think, yes, we are the Hispanic Latin ERG at Henkel, but we are open to everyone, regardless of the origin. And I think this is something important because I think our idea is for us just to create a sense of identity, just to thrive as a community. But at the same time, we think that it's important that in our company, everyone understands about Unidos. We all connect with everyone. I think we provide a lot of opportunities just to connect, to thrive. At the same time, we provide opportunities for learning, to provide insights, to help drive the business, to help understand how Latinos and Hispanics insert and work in the corporate world and at Henkel. So there are many different levels for us to engage and for those non-Hispanics that are members of Unidos too, to learn about the Latino community and work better together. We have a lot of opportunities for recruiting. We have a lot of opportunities for community engagement. So being part of SHPE, as we are today, is a testament of our commitment to help drive education, to foster collaboration. So, and I think just in a quick note, just to close here, I don't want to take too much time, but basically our encouragement is, as you all, some of you may be already in the workforce, some of you may be getting ready to be in the workforce. If you are committed today through SHPE, our advice as a group is continue being committed to the organization. Be committed, I think, get engaged when you go back and work for a company. Companies today have a lot of ERGs and opportunities to be involved and have that sense of community and belonging. plus helping us learn, right? And develop ourselves and develop others through mentorship opportunities that you all will be part of. So that's, I think, what we want to leave you today. And I'm going just to pass that back to Ashley. Also, we are available through LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with any of us. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and welcome to our panelists as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolina. Again, we just want to thank Henkel. This would not be possible without you guys today. So let's go ahead. We're going to jump into the content here and get to know our panelists. So each of my panelists, I'm going to say your name out, but you'll answer this question. Give us your name, your title, and speak to your experience as a mentor and mentee. Have you had different types of mentors, formal or informal? So really kind of kick off this conversation here. So Anna, you are first on my introduction slide. So go ahead and just give us a little bit about you here.
Very good. Hi, everyone. My name's Anna Wagner, and I am a native of Bogota, Colombia. I have been in the United States for many, many years. I have my undergraduate was actually industrial engineering, and I started my career at Ford Motor Company here in Detroit, where I am today. SHPE and mentoring was very, very important, especially at the beginning of my career, because as I had just arrived from Colombia, it provided me with an opportunity to network, and then most importantly, I found my very first mentor there in SHPE in Detroit. So my experience is very, very positive, not just with SHPE, but with mentoring in general. And the experience also gave me a chance to be a mentor myself, as they had a program with high school students. So it was all around a very, very positive experience, and mentoring in general, not just from those beginnings of my career many, many years ago, but even now plays a very important part in developing myself personally and in my career. So after working as an engineer for a while, I got an MBA after a few years, and I've worked mainly in the chemical industry for several years in materials that typically are sold in the automotive industry.
There you go. Thank you so much, Anna. Gerhard, would you go and introduce yourself next, please?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Gerhardkumaro. I was born and raised in Venezuela. My family moved to the U.S. when I was 13, so I did most of my all of my education here in the U.S. My undergrad was in biochemistry, and after my undergrad, I worked at the Centers for Disease Control for several years before deciding to go to grad school, where I got a master's in organic chemistry. I worked after grad school for many years in the pharmaceutical industry, and I've now been with Henkel for over 2 years. And now I work in beauty care, formulating personal care products, shampoos, hair conditioners, etc. And yeah, just super excited to be with you all. I have not been part of a structured mentoring program. I've had informal mentors, professors that have helped me, throughout my career, colleagues, just different people throughout my career that have helped me. I've also tried to help younger and scientists that are starting their career to navigate those first few years where you really don't know what else is out there and what all the opportunities are out there, and there's just so much out there that sometimes we don't know, and that I didn't know when I was starting my career that I wish I would have known. So just happy to help out people to navigate that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, that moves us to Jimena. Sorry. And you want to introduce yourself and talk about mentoring for you, please?
Yes, absolutely. So hello, everybody. My name is Jimena Denaune. I was born in Mexico and moved to the US 10 years ago. I am an industrial engineer as a background, and right now I am the director of MPI. MPI means new product introduction. So basically what I do is I manage projects from the moment they are an idea all the way down to being manufactured, being distributed, and sitting on a shelf somewhere, right? So I have background in mentorship before Henkel. I've been 4 years with Henkel, and before that I was in Duracell batteries, before that in P&G, so CPG career through and through. I have been part of a formal mentoring program, both in Henkel and in P&G, with my formal mentors, but I also have a lot of informal mentors in my life. I am a firm believer of having a board of directors helping me out in my life where I am the CEO. I also have my board of directors that know a lot more than I do and can teach me a lot of things. There's always something to learn from them. And in the past years, I have also had the pleasure of being a mentor myself to some students and some people who are in junior positions in Henkel. And let me tell you, the learning doesn't stop. It doesn't stop being a mentee. It continues as you become a mentor. I've learned so much. So many things that I wish I knew when I was younger, when I was in their position. And to me, it has been key to my career development and to my personal development to having mentors and being surrounded by, again, this board of directors, to me has been amazing, because it has led me to make better decisions, understand situations better, see things from a different perspective. So I'm a firm believer in mentorship.
I love the board of directors concept with mentoring. I am so glad that you touched on that today already. Miss Laura, you're up last. Why don't you introduce yourself and talk to us about your experience with mentoring?
Hi, my name is Laura Whitlock. My background is industrial engineer. I have worked in manufacturing, but mostly distribution. I work at the Louisville warehouse here. I'm originally from the Dominican Republic, been in the country now for many years also. I do have a little bit of experience as a mentee. The company that I worked for before I came to Henkel, we established a program at one point, and I was able to get paired up with a couple of ladies, that were at a higher level that really helped out. I mean, talking to these people was amazing. From the mentee perspective, to be able to share somebody else's life experience, to be able to run some things that were bothering me or that I was concerned about with other people, that see it through their eyes and through their lens and their life experiences was really, really helpful for myself. I've never been a formal mentor for anybody. Now I'm thinking that maybe I should. Could be a good idea, but I've tried to, over my career, to help anybody that I can, to try to do a little bit more informal mentoring, whether it's giving advice or just being a shoulder to cry on, or an ear, or just anything that I can do, because I do believe in paying it forward. I think that, we have a responsibility, whatever level we are in, whatever success we have, to help others. So whether it's in my personal life or my career, I'm always trying to help and try to teach and not impose, but just try to be the best resource that anybody can have. So being a Henkel almost 4 years, enjoying being a part of this ERG and trying to be the best person I can be.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Laura. I think that you really display those characteristics that are so important for our mentors. So the next area we're going to look at, so the goal of today's panel is to talk about 3 foundational skills that are really important for mentoring connections. So that's active listening, building connections, and goal setting. So we're going to start off here with active listening. Anna, how do you demonstrate active listening in an online setting?
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Because we're all either on camera or just audio. You might have seen my face as the other panelists were talking, acknowledging. This is how I demonstrate. You if you're on video, you nod. If you are on just audio, you ask questions. Not multitasking is a key thing. I know nowadays in our computers, we could have several windows open. And so not multitasking and paying your full attention. To me, mindfulness is a big part of my life and my career, the concept of mindfulness, which is being present. So I incorporate this in that this is really how I demonstrate it online in terms of active listening. The other part is obviously the active listening tools that we're all taught, repeating, right? So let me summarize. If I understand you correctly, what do you mean by XYZ? So always be active in the conversation, repeat and reinstate statements. And that also works not just on video, but also in person, obviously. But yeah, and this virtual settings, it is very important that whether it's visual or audio, be mindful and be present.
Those are great pieces of advice. I know that we may not always use those video cameras, but we're still really able to show that we're active listening, or demonstrate, or I really like those summarizing, like, this is what I heard you say. I think those are really great ways, especially when we're building those initial connections. All right, Gerhard, I'm going to ask you, how do you build trust within a mentoring connection?
Well, I think for me, the most important thing is people that actually follow through and follow up. If you say that you're gonna, show up for a meeting, or, we schedule a meeting, make sure that you just show up. A, B, that you're interested, that you're engaged, that you're asking questions, that you show that you're, participating with the conversation. That's key. And yeah, for me, it's showing up and being involved. So I would say.
If I may add one thought to that, not just show up, but be on time and end on time, right? Respect your mentor's time or mentee's time. It goes both ways.
Right. And so I guess my follow-up question is, we all live in hectic, crazy worlds, right? And we were just talking about getting that email right before that meeting. What is it? How would you recommend, Gerhard, that how do you navigate those situations where you may have to cancel something or something comes up? How do you handle those life situations in a respectful manner?
Sometimes things happen, but you have to prioritize, meetings and events, and make sure that you're setting, your calendar well, and you block your calendar. But sometimes people try to schedule meetings right on top of meetings and on top of meetings, but just make sure you respectfully clear your calendar so you can be focused on either your mentor-mentee relation, your meeting, to make sure you can get that accomplished.
Thank you. Laura, how do you find common ground when you have different lived experiences with your mentees?
I usually never have problem finding common ground because I talk too much, but that's a good one, because especially, having different life experiences. I mean, I've been in situations with people that when I first meet them, I feel like there's nothing in common. How do you bridge that gap? And I think part of it, obviously I talk a lot, having honest conversations, maybe not be too serious at the beginning, talk a little bit about your background, and over the conversation, you start building that and finding those little common nuggets, whether it's, it could be just, we like the same sport, or we like the same music, or, and little by little you start, pulling those threads together until you find something. I mean, we always, I've never found anybody that I completely don't have anything in common with. But even if you don't have anything, I mean, that could be a learning opportunity. That could be, somebody that, they can show you a side of life that you've never seen. I mean, that could be a learning for me, and to say, oh, wow, I never thought about that. I never seen that. So even that could be a common ground, having nothing at all. I think the main important thing will be keep an open mind. Try to keep an open mind. Don't have a preconceived notion of what the other person should have or should have done. But just be honest too, and just keep that open conversation, talk, and something will come up, and it could be a wonderful opportunity for both of us.
Thank you, Laura. Jimena, when you talk about board of directors, obviously you're taking a lot of initiative and creating that for yourself. Can you share some advice for taking that first step and reaching out to a mentor when establishing a new connection?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first part is to try to understand, as a mentee, where do you need help, or where do you want to be better at? So in that board of directors, you might have mentors for different things. Like, for example, I have a mentor who is a Latino woman, who is in a top position in my previous company. And I want to understand from her, how was it to move to the US, to grow her career here, to overcome any bias. So that's what I want to learn from her. And that's what I told her when I asked her if she wanted to be my mentor. And it always starts with a question and a request, right? You always need to tell your mentor, hey, do you want to be my mentor? And tell them what you want to achieve. I want to understand how you did it. I want to understand what barriers did you face in these and that, so that I can learn from that as well. So if from the very beginning you tell your mentor to be, what do you want to learn from them, that makes it easier for the mentor too, to kind of walk you through their experiences, and also easier for you to set your goals and what you're trying to achieve out of the mentor-mentee relationship. The other part is, I think another key is to be very brave, because sometimes it is imposing to go to these people who are very higher up in the company or even in another company and say, hey, do you have an hour to spare a month for me? What I can tell you is, yes, it takes a little courage to type that email or to set up that meeting. But in my experience, no one has ever told me, you know what, no, I don't have the time. People make the time because people that got all the way up there understand how they got there. And most probably, they have mentors of their own. So just be brave, take that first step, and explain to your mentor what you need from your relationship with them. I think that is the key to success.
Yeah, and if I may add, if you're part of this program, if you're part of the mentorship, your mentor is expecting you to reach out, and they're here because they want to help and they want to be involved, and this is what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
Perfect. Out of curiosity, has anyone ever asked a mentor and they received a no?
Not in my case.
I have actually, for somebody that works for me just recently. I was introducing her to somebody and I said, the idea here is to get her to meet people so she can find a mentor. And I have gotten you know what, I would love to do it. I have like 3 other mentors. It is not a good time. It wasn't a complete no. It was more of, let's talk in 6 months when I'm done with this other program. But I would agree with what was said earlier, that 99.9% of the time, people will want to mentor.
Right. But if you get a no, it's that first step of being super brave. And if you get a no, there are always others that you can ask. And I know I've had people ask me for help in certain skill areas that I just didn't feel like I was qualified to help in. And so I have said no a couple times, but it's always with the best interests at heart. But I'm always so proud of people for being brave enough, because it is a really big ask. You're being vulnerable when you want to connect with a mentor. And so I just encourage everyone to be that brave person and help build your network in that way.
One piece of advice, if I may add, just along those lines, is you don't always have to ask for the mentorship right at the first meeting. One thing that I was just giving this advice to somebody a couple of weeks ago was, have an initial meeting and just get to know the person, see if there's even chemistry, maybe even have a second meeting on a specific topic. Hey, I was wondering if you can read through this and help me with this. And then if you see that there's the chemistry, then ask. So that's another strategy to even see if there's chemistry right at the beginning, not when you first meet them.
Right. Take a little bit of pressure off there. That's a really great piece of advice there, Anna. One question I had intended to ask all of you and I forgot, and I really think it's important, is how has mentoring elevated your career? And I would like each of you to answer that. Gerhard, could you speak to how that's maybe elevated your career or your personal life, or one way that it's really impacted you personally?
Absolutely. At my previous company, I had been working in a department for about a year, and I just felt like I was not learning anymore in that department, and my skills could be used in a different position. And I got to meet a director of a different department that was actually doing more organic synthesis, which is what I wanted to do. And we just met as friends and colleagues more than anything. And one day he said, I'm actually hiring and I'm looking for someone right now, and send me your resume. And the group interviewed me and he interviewed me, and I ended up getting a position in his group. So it helped me tremendously.
Thank you for sharing that, Gerhard. Anna, do you want to tell us about a time maybe it's elevated you personally?
I would say throughout my whole career. So when I was introducing myself, I shared that SHPE actually provided me with the opportunity to have my first mentor in a professional setting, and also provided me with the opportunity to be a mentee and a mentor with both programs. But that also taught me that I basically, now that I think about it, in the 25 years I've been working, I don't think I've gone without a mentor. Really, whether it's informal or formal, I've had both ways. I was even participating in a program many years ago at Ford that was called a Mentor Up program, which was the other way around. People in lower levels would mentor up the executives, and so that was an interesting twist. But it has had a huge impact in my career, to the point of the concept of board of directors. This is what I have to this day. I have now lifelong friends that were my mentors in the past, maybe through formal programs. Nowadays, a couple of the guys are retired. And to this day, so for example, 2 years ago when Henkel made me the offer to come work for them, I met with them separately and I asked them, what do you think? You get opinions. So I cannot think of a moment in my life when I haven't gone without a mentor. And then also mentoring. So whether people reach out informally or whether I join formal programs for mentoring, it has made a huge difference. And I learn as much from my mentees as I do from my mentors. You learn all the way around. So huge impact in my career. I owe many job opportunities, just like Gerhard was saying, leads, connections to my mentors, ideas, you know, so it's been just hugely impactful for me in my career.
Thank you, Anna. That's what I love to hear. Laura, can you talk a little bit about how it may have elevated you personally or professionally?
Yeah, so I had actually, in my previous position, I had a situation. I was having some conflict with another department, and that was when I was engaged in a mentor relationship with somebody else, you know, somebody who was higher in the company, and it was a great opportunity to talk about that conflict. And she had actually had a similar situation, so we were able to compare notes, and so she was able to give me some pointers. You know, how do we want to manage this? How do we bridge that gap between the two departments? How do we eliminate the conflict? You know, some good communication tools, things that I could do, how to present myself, especially, so that way it would not be seen as, you know, I'm attacking anybody or anything. So it really made the difference to hear somebody who had gone through a similar situation and how they dealt with it. And so how I can apply those to myself, obviously, with my own personality, and able to really create a good relationship with another department. So that was very helpful for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Laura. Jimena, you're last. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how it's elevated you?
Yes, absolutely. So earlier in my career, I moved internationally several times. So I started my career in Mexico, then I moved to Argentina, then I moved to Brazil. For a time there, I moved to Guatemala too, and then finally to the US, and all these happened in 7 years. That is a hard choice to make, just to, hey, I'm moving away from my family to a 9-hour flight distance place where I don't know anybody and I barely speak the language. That was my experience in Brazil. But I felt like the right thing for my career, but it is hard to make that decision on your own. So I think this is when I relied the most on my mentors, to get from them their experiences with international assignments, their experiences with career moves, to understand if it made sense, if it didn't. Because while this was happening, I was also getting offers, right? There's always the opportunity cost. So I was always getting offers back in Mexico, even from other companies. So I really wanted to reach out to my mentors to help me, because it is hard for one to make that decision on your own. I was on my own then. And then my later move, I was married. So now it's not only your decision, but it's also your little family that you're moving with you. And you want to hear about other people who have had that experience, what they learned, whether it was a good or bad experience. So to me, I think to make those career changing decisions, and in the end, life changing decisions, I relied a lot on my mentor network. They shared a lot of these experiences with me. Some were good and some were bad. In the end, they're not going to make the decision for you. They're not going to fix it for you. They are not going to be there when you land in Brazil and can barely speak Portuguese. but at least you know that you took everything into consideration and you know that you're making what is right for you at that time in your life.
Wow, that would be so helpful to have mentors in those pivotal life moments like that. So thank you for sharing that. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about another important foundational skill, and that's goal setting. So Gerhard, can you tell me why are goals important to have in successful mentoring connections?
Yeah, I think as Anna mentioned, it's important to have a defined, goal of what you want to accomplish, what you're there for, what you want to get out of. It will help you set the conversation. It won't, we've heard of people in mentor and mentee relationships that they end up talking about anything else but what they need to accomplish, where they talk about like what they ate yesterday, where they went this last weekend, which is really not really what you want to be doing, right? You want to make sure you're taking advantage of your time with your mentor and mentee. So it's important to have a goal of what you want to accomplish, what you want to learn about.
So as a mentor, Gerhard, if you had a mentee that maybe was shying away from setting goals, or really wanted to talk about what they did and their food, how would you help get them to setting those goals?
I would work with that person, make sure, ask them, what do you want to do with your career? Do you want to maybe go to grad school, or you're finishing, your undergrad and you want to enter the workforce? You have an idea of where you want to work, what you want to be doing, and kind of help them, guide them to set those goals.
Anna, do you want to speak to setting goals and what strategies you use to help your mentees set those goals?
Absolutely. A typical question you get sometimes even in job interviews or from mentors is, what do you want to do in the next 5 to 10 years? I don't look that far. I asked people, what are they looking for if the mentoring relationship is about career development? Let's put that as an example. Is what do you want to do in the next 1 to 2 steps of your career? What do you think is next? And then what do you think is after that? And then let's walk backward and understand what steps you need to take to get there. So to get to the first step, maybe you have a gap in negotiation and you're looking for a sales role, then let's work on how do we find either training in negotiation or opportunities to get better at negotiation. So that's the way I usually look at it. And then based on that, then you set very specific and achievable goals that are bite-sized that you can accomplish. My experience, if you start going with the 10-year, I want to be a CEO, okay, that's great. But the more concrete you can make it and the more step-by-step you can make it for the mentee, the better. And of course, any advice that you personally have, suggestions on courses, trainings, talk to so-and-so, those will go into the step-by-step to reach the objectives. Awesome.
All right, so I have another question. We're going to loop back a little bit here to some active listening questions. So Jimena, can you tell me why active listening is so important in a successful mentoring relationship?
Yeah, I think active listening is the key to establish that commitment between mentor and mentee. You can have friends that you talk about things, you can talk about your career with your friends, but the difference between chatting with your friends or chatting with someone that sits next to you in the office and chatting with your mentor is that commitment that that mentor has with you and with helping you develop whatever skill you are developing together. So active listening is key on both sides. The mentor needs to be super invested in understanding what are your needs, how do I helping you to help you, like Anna was saying, to track those bite-sized wins until you get to the other side. It is super important that you listen, not only what your mentee is telling you, but also what they're not telling you. You need to catch those clues to get an idea of the environment that your mentee is in, the challenges that they're facing that maybe they have not even realized, but you can spot those things. So if you're not actively listening and actively committed to this mentorship relationship, then you won't be able to provide the best advice as a mentor as you can. And on the mentee side is a little more obvious, but when your mentor is telling you or recommending you to go do something, your mentor is not your boss, so he cannot go tell you to go do it and then you have to because it's there on your role ambition somewhere. It is the advice that they're giving. You need to listen to it. You need to listen to all these feedback and wisdom, because in the end, it's the best thing for you. And the closer you get to following that advice, and then you can come back and say, hey, sometimes it doesn't work. So it didn't work. What can we try next, etc. That is also only achieved when you are both super invested, super actively listening to each other, and the relationship grows better every single time when both parties are doing the same thing.
Wonderful. All right, so those end actually kind of our formal questions here. I would like to end with some advice while we give our participants some time to think of some questions for you guys. So I'm going to have each of you respond to this as well. So what piece of advice do you have specifically for mentors? Laura, I'm going to kick it off with you.
So from a mentor, I think one of the biggest piece of advice would be to not lecture, to have a conversation, because I know that, I'm a mother and I have 2 kids, and when they ask a question, I want to go into the infinite wisdom of the ages and tell them everything that they need to do in order to be successful. And I think that I know everything, and I tell them that, but I don't. But obviously in a professional relationship that is different. So the mentee doesn't come to me because they want me to give them all the answers. They want me to help them to develop their own answers. So the not lecturing, to have the conversation, to be respectful of them, to understand their life experience, that it might not be similar to mine and their path is not going to be similar to mine, but we can still create a good relationship based on that. So as a mentor, remember that we're here to help, we're here to guide, we're not here to tell. Like Jimena said, I'm not their boss, I'm not going to tell them exactly what to do, but I can help them with what I've gone through to try to make their path maybe a little bit easier. So definitely not lecture them. You keep it as a conversation.
Great piece of advice. Gerhard, what advice do you have for mentors?
For mentors, I would say help connect your mentees. Connections are so important. If, like we've discussed, if your background doesn't exactly match what, your mentee wants to do, help see if you can connect them with someone else in your life, in your career, in your profession, because we know a lot of people that, and keep pushing your mentee to work connections and go to events, go to conferences, go to social hours. There are a lot of professional groups that have social hours, in the evenings or events like this, and reach out to those people that you meet. It's important that you just never know who's going to get you to your next job, your next career, your next connection through another connection, etc. So just help build those connections.
All right, Anna, what piece of advice do you have?
Well, they've taken all of the good ones.
I know, it's getting harder.
I'll give one that again aligns with my belief in mindfulness. Is be present. If you're a mentor, especially if you have a high job in the organization, you're going to be a very busy person. Even if you don't, you're going to be very busy. Be there. If you have a half hour or an hour meeting with your mentee, be there for that full hour. Be mindful, be present. Active listening is key. I think that's the best gift you can give the person, in addition to all the other advice that the others have given.
All right, the hard one. Jimena, what last piece of advice do you have for mentors?
Yeah, I think all the good ones, everything people said, I think it was on my list of advice for mentors. But the only other thing I can think of is share, be open. Sometimes when you are in the same organization, it is hard because you don't want to mention a situation that just happened, or you don't want to name names, whatever, but just be super open. From not only share your success or think that you're there as a role model. You are a mentor, so whatever worked for you, but also what didn't work, what went well for you, but also what didn't went so good. All those things are helping your mentee. So always be open and transparent. It won't make you look like less of a mentor. If anything, it'll just help your mentee learn more and more about you and be able to apply those learnings to their own career development, to their own life development. So be open, share. That's all mentees need.
Yes, yeah. All right, so we'll go back reverse order. So what advice, Ximena, do you have for mentees?
So for me, again, my advice, I think what has worked for me in my life is look for mentors, not only for your career, not only when you feel like you're ready to be promoted, not only when you feel like you're ready to make a change in your career. Have mentors for things in your life. Have mentors, find a family mentor, somebody who has a family that you really admire and you want to learn from them. Have a relationship mentor, a friendship mentor. You can find mentors everywhere, and you don't need to call them mentors if it's just weird to call them that. But do look at people that you admire, that do things that you would love to reapply in your life, and ask them how they do it. Learn from what they're learning, because it'll just make you better through and through if you are holistically a mentored person. I encourage everybody to build that board of directors for you. You're the CEO, but have your advisors there for you in all the aspects of your life.
I love how you really point out how important informal mentors are. And I love that you don't have to call someone a mentor for them to be a mentor and give you those pieces of life advice as well. So that's a wonderful, thank you so much. Anna, what piece of advice do you have for mentees?
My biggest piece of advice is own your own journey. Only you can decide what's next. Only you can decide, even if not, as Jimena mentioned earlier, even if it's not a career move on your current job or whatever you're seeking mentoring for, you own your journey and nobody else is going to do it for you. Henkel, I've worked for a few companies, and Henkel's a great example of a company that takes great care and dedicates resources to develop people. So we have a lot of tools, we have a lot of programs and processes to develop yourself, but you can't expect the company to give you a promotion or the mentor to find you the right connection or the job. You own your journey and only you own it, and you make the decisions. That's my biggest piece of advice.
That's a good one too. Gerhard, you're up. What last piece of advice do you have for mentees?
I would say, don't be afraid to reach out and to contact people and ask questions. I remember a junior scientist that I was working with one time. This person was looking to make a career change, and I said, why don't you reach out to a couple of people on LinkedIn? And this person was, too afraid to work the system that way. It didn't feel right to just work, connections, work your people. And I said, but that's how the world works. People are getting promotions and moving to another job and finding other things because they know someone, and that person was able to get them, in front of someone, at least hand a resume or say, take a look at this person. It's really difficult to get a job these days by just applying through a website, just the company website. It happens, but if you know someone, it's that much easier. So don't be afraid to work your connections.
Great. Laura, your final piece of advice for mentees.
Everybody has said such good things. I had to look at my notes. I think the biggest one that I would say is, be open to feedback. Take whatever advice is given with the intent that they're trying to help you. Sometimes, especially as a young person, I remember that, I thought I knew everything. And sometimes somebody might say something that I did not agree with, but instead of taking it in a negative way, if I try to take it in the positive of, they're really trying to look out for me, they're trying to help me. Maybe not everything will apply, but some of it will. So, try to really understand that when somebody tells you something or gives you any kind of advice or points you in a direction, they're trying to do it with the best intention. So definitely have the best intention in mind. And then you might be surprised, something that they tell you that you never thought it would work. It might be exactly what you needed to hear, so definitely have that, be open to that feedback, and be open to receiving that advice with the positive intent that is being given.
I took notes over all of those. I think those were all such wonderful pieces of advice. So just so everyone knows that's listening today, I will send those like highlights of pieces of advice out when I send the recording, because I think those are some really great things for us to capture. We're going to move now to the Q&A portion of the panel. I've already had a few really good questions dropped here. So panelists, I will read the question, and if you guys want to volunteer to respond, that would be great. So my first question here is for Jacqueline. Let's see here. I can get up to it here. So is there a balance of how personal you should be as a mentee or mentor? Do you maintain conversations to general topics and professional goals, or do you kind of go into that personal area? And it looks like Anna may have responded in the chat. So Anna, if you're okay saying that out loud so some of our others can listen to that, maybe some of our other panelists might be able to expand upon that.
Sure, yeah, it's like with any relationship at the workplace or at school, it really depends, right? Depends on the relationship. If you knew this person before, how much this person is really willing to get into personal, what the nature of the relationship is, if it was an informal one versus a formal program. So I would really follow the mentor's lead and see how much they're willing to go one way or the other. When in doubt, don't start talking about this soccer tournament from yesterday and the kids' track meet. Stick to the, if you're in doubt, stick to the professional side and see where it goes. But it really depends.
Does anyone else have any advice for kind of keeping those boundaries, or how personal they may get in those connections?
That if you are investing enough in your own career to go find a mentor and try to help, that means, and that mentor accepts and is willing to mentor you, that means there is a little layer of a personal connection. So like Anna said, goal setting is super important. So you will be talking most of the time on how to get to your goals, etc. But of course, I mean, if you are a good mentor, you want to know how your mentee is doing in other aspects of their life. And so do you as a mentee. Maybe it's not a good time for your mentor right now, and you need to open those other senses to feel when your mentor is probably, maybe they have a super stressful week, and that week they cannot put all the attention on you. So just deal with your mentor as you would deal with any other professional relationship, taking into account that these are people and not computers. But like Anna said, I think the key is setting goals, talking about your goals, and yes, of course, investing a little and getting to know each other more as a person, just because that is what makes a mentor much more interesting than just looking for answers on Google.
Thank you for that, Jimena. There was another question, and did anyone else want to kind of expand upon the boundaries there for us?
I think I was just going to say, it depends, like Anna said, but start out professional. If it's someone that you really haven't spent much time around, start professional, and then see how the relationship evolves. Just like any kind of friendship or relationship at work. And yeah, but I mean, we're human, so it's always nice to add a little bit of a human touch. So if it's appropriate, of course,
So sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna, reiterate, because like I said before, I'm chatty. I talk all day, and I have children, and I talk about them all the time. And I know that's sometimes, maintaining that professional is very important, because I know everyone wants to hear about how wonderful my children are, but, I'm not a robot too. And like Gerhard said, we're human beings. There's going to be something that's going to percolate, something of the human side. So it does have to be a balance between how much am I willing to share and how much is the other person willing to share, not push, I try not to ask intrusive questions. I'm not going to ask you to tell me everything that you've done and your whole life history, but if you wish to share, then I can share a little bit, and you know, take the cues from each other about how much you're comfortable sharing. And if somebody's not comfortable sharing, respect that. You know, I mean, don't, like I said, don't ask questions that are intrusive or, you know, way too personal, and understand that there are people who don't want to talk about their children. I don't know why. Mine are perfect, but you know, that's the way it is.
So I want to thank you guys tremendously for all of the advice you've given us today. It has just blown my mind away. So I am going to go ahead. I'm going to close out our panel here shortly, but I do really want to thank you guys again. We've had some really great questions, some really great conversations, and I just encourage each of you guys listening today or watching our recording, take advantage of this wealth of knowledge and connect with them on LinkedIn. I know we talked a lot today about important parts of ourself is, you know, that networking piece, but you guys heard some great things here, and I'm sure they can answer more questions via LinkedIn as well. So don't be shy. I just really wanted to put that out there. Again, thank you guys, all of you, for participating and really being vulnerable and telling us about your experiences, and really just such great advice. And so, like I said, my biggest takeaways is that there are all types of mentors, formal and informal, and they all play an important role in helping us develop. So don't be afraid of taking advantage of those various types of mentoring relationships. Best piece of advice, don't mean to call out favorites, create that board of directors. I love that so much. That's such an important thing for us to think about, is that different mentors can do different things for us. So mentees, think about that as well. You know, other things that we be brave was another wonderful piece of advice today. It can be a little intimidating to make that first step and ask for those connections, but just know that, you know, leading with your goals and expectations and questions and being genuine is going to be really important as well. And then also be reflective and think about areas where you want to grow. And it's really going to help make those mentoring relationships strong. So I want to thank everyone for joining us for today's panel. You're going to receive a recording link within 48 hours and a link to a survey, which I dropped into the chat as well. So all of those completing the survey by May 15th will be entered into a drawing for one of 3 Starbucks gift cards. The questions on the survey are really just to give us, you know, let us know what you learned today. What are some of your personal biggest takeaways? Because I know our panelists want that feedback as well. So again, I want to thank all of you for joining us. You'll get some more stuff here. Happy mentoring, everyone. Thank you so much from SHPE. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.